The deeper I stepped into the east jungle, the more the air began to vibrate. With my newly awakened heightened senses, the jungle wasn't just trees and shadows anymore. It was a sea of pulsing, jagged auras. The monsters here were leagues above anything I'd faced. Their presence felt like a physical weight pressing against my skin. I had just adjusted my grip on my blade when a voice cut through the humid air. "Stop! You can't go in there." I spun around, my hand instinctively going to my hilt, only to find Stephanie emerging from the dense foliage, her breath coming in quick bursts. "Stephanie? What are you doing here?" "Saving your life," she snapped, stepping closer to scan the tree. "You aren't strong enough for this yet." I felt a prickle of irritation. "Not strong enough? I've survived this far." She paused, her gaze softening but remaining firm. "I know where you're going. The cave Grandpa told you about. I know it too. It's not just a cave, it's a high-ranked dungeon. And it is far too dangerous for us right now." "A dungeon," I echoed, the word tasting like copper in my mouth. 5 layers, she explained, her voice dropping to a whisper. Each one exponentially harder than the last. And at the very bottom, on the 5th floor, sits an S-grade shadow hydra. It has 3 heads, and it commands the shadows themselves. With your current strength, you wouldn't even make it past the 1st floor. That's why I'm here. I'm going to help you. I narrow my eyes, my suspicion flaring. "And why would you risk your neck for me? What's the catch?" "I can see the energy around you," she said, her eyes glowing faintly as she activated her own perception. "I know that Marshmallow isn't an F-rank beast. I can see that mass of fluctuating energy floating beside you. The core is damaged, but the power is immense. My family was allied with the Shadow Clan. Your father and mine were brothers in arms. When the Three Claw clan was destroyed, my mother dissolved our clan and brought me back to Grandpa's. We share the same history and the same enemy." She stepped into a shaft of light, her expression hardening with resolve. "I've been out here training to avenge my father, but I need something from that cave, too. On the 4th floor, there's a fox's ice crystal. It's the final piece I need to evolve my beast to S-grade. We need each other." I weighed her words. A partner who knew the terrain and shared my blood feud was a rare asset. "Fine," I said, "but if we do this, there are things you need to know, and you can't tell a soul." She nodded solemnly. "I swear." I pulled up my status window, though it was invisible to her. "The aura you see is a system. It provides me with data and allows me to devour spiritual power and skills from the things I kill." I looked at the silver cat perched near her. "Have your beast bite my arm. Trust me." She looked hesitant but gave the command. The silver cat lunged, its teeth sinking into my forearm, only to chime against my skin like metal on stone. "Hardening," I explained, watching her eyes widen. "I took that from a black hell ant. I can't steal every skill, and it doesn't always work, but it's how I grow." "Incredible," she whispered. "I want to see it in action." "Not here," I said, glancing at the oppressive auras deeper in the jungle. "Let's head to the North Mountain. We'll hunt light wolves. It's safer for a demonstration." We trekked to the craggy slopes of the north until we spotted them, a pack of 7. The alpha was a beast of pure white fur, a jagged scar running across its right eye, standing a head taller than the rest. "Light wolves are skittish," I whispered, crouched behind a boulder. "If we move, they'll bolt. Here's the plan. I'm going to use shadow bind on the alpha. If the pack sees their leader held fast, they'll stay and fight instead of scattering. We'll ambush them while they're confused." I began to creep forward, staying downwind. Their sense of smell was legendary. "Are you sure about this?" Stephanie hissed, her hand on her own beast collar. "Most tamers stay back and let their beasts do the dirty work." I glanced back at her, a confident smirk tugging at my lips. "Don't worry about me. Marshmallow is just the support. I'm the weapon." I lowered my body, breath steady, my senses stretching outward through the new awareness granted by the pack. I could feel them now. 7 distinct auras. 6 flickered like cautious flames, but one was bright, sharp, and commanding. The Alpha. I glanced back at Stephanie. Stay ready, I whispered. Once this starts, it won't stop. She nodded, her silver cat's eyes narrowing, no longer soft, but focused and predatory. Good. I turned back as the wind shifted slightly, carrying their scent. I moved with controlled purpose, slipping between rocks and patches of snow. The wolves hadn't noticed yet, but their ears twitched. They were close. Too close. There, the Alpha stood on a small ridge, overlooking the others. Its single-scarred, I gave it a brutal presence, like a veteran of 100 wars. Perfect. I exhaled slowly. My hand lifted, and the ground beneath the Alpha's feet twitched. Like liquid darkness, its own shadow rose, wrapping around its legs. The beast froze. For a split second, nothing happened. Then a snarl tore through the air. The pack turned instantly, but instead of fleeing, they saw their leader still standing, fighting. Just like I predicted, they stayed. Now, I shouted. Stephanie moved instantly. Her silver cat leapt from her shoulder, a ripple of water energy surging around it. Water pulse. A wave burst forward, slamming into 2 wolves and knocking them off balance. I didn't wait. My body flickered, 1 step, 2, 3 like shadows skipping across reality itself. I appeared beside the first wolf and delivered a clean, precise horizontal slash. The wolf dropped before it even understood what happened. Another lunged, teeth aimed for my throat. Hardened, its fangs hit my arm and stopped dead. Shock flashed in its eyes just before I drove my blade upward through its jaw. Behind me, Stephanie was struggling with 2 wolves probing her defenses. Watch your left, I yelled. The wolf lunged, but I was faster. Shadow bind. Its body froze mid-air, caught just long enough for Stephanie to react. Water lance. A sharp stream pierced the wolf's side, sending it crashing into the snow. Only the Alpha remained. It roared, and with a surge of light, it broke free of the bind. Its aura flared brighter, sharper. Careful, Stephanie called. It's using light flash. I smirked. Yeah, I know. I reached up and slid on my sunglasses. The world dimmed just in time. Flash. A burst of blinding light exploded outward, amplified by the snow. Through the tinted lenses, I could still see. The Alpha lunged, faster than the others, but I used to vanish from its path. Its body twisted mid-motion, adapting, learning. Not bad, I muttered as its claws grazed my side, sending me sliding back. Pain flared, but I stayed standing. Blake, Stephanie shouted. I'm fine. I snapped back. The wolf lowered its stance, circling. Waiting. Too smart. Then let's end this. I dropped my center of gravity. My outline blurred, my presence fading until the wolf's eyes couldn't lock on. That was all I needed. I closed the distance in jagged bursts. I thrust forward, and my blade's shadow split into 5 dark tendrils that lanced out from multiple angles. The Alpha's body froze, then collapsed into the snow. Silence, heavy and still. I exhaled, lowering my sword. That's new. Stephanie walked up, eyes wide. That wasn't normal. My system flickered. Devour available. I looked at her, and she didn't hesitate. Do it. I pressed the command. Dark energy surged into my body, stronger and cleaner than before. Level up 32 skill acquired. Light flash. I blinked. Now that's useful. Stephanie let out a breath, a small smile forming. Okay, now I see why Grandpa is interested in you. I looked toward the distant jungle where that massive aura still pulsed. Waiting. This was just practice, I said quietly. Marshmallow climbed back onto my shoulder, golden eyes watching the horizon. Stephanie crossed her arms. So, next step? I smirked. We get strong enough to kill a hydra. After Stephanie joined my party, everything changed. Eyes followed us everywhere, inside the guild, along the streets, even in places that should have been quiet. Whispers trailed in our wake like shadows. A few bold ones even tried to track me down, lurking just at the edge of my awareness. But heightened senses have their advantages. I could feel them long before they got close. Avoiding them became second nature. Weeks passed like this. We kept returning to the mountain, pushing ourselves harder each time. Fighting, training, growing. By the end of it, I had reached level 45, strong enough to take on B-grade monsters without hesitation. But the mountain, it never forgets. As we walked along a narrow ridge one afternoon, a familiar weight settled over us, thick, suffocating, and impossible to ignore. My body stiffened. The griffin. Every instinct screamed the same truth. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I shot Stephanie a look, and she understood instantly. Without a word, we slipped into hiding, pressing ourselves into the jagged rock and shadow, hoping, praying it wouldn't notice us. The pressure grew, closer, heavier. Then, it passed overhead. I exhaled slowly, barely daring to whisper. I think it didn't spot us. Stephanie nodded, her shoulders easing as we carefully stepped out from our hiding place. That's when we heard it, a distant shriek, sharp and piercing, followed by the unmistakable sound of chaos. Screaming, wailing, panic. My jaw tightened. Looks like someone else ran into it, I muttered. Let's move, while it's distracted. We ran. The climb was brutal, but adrenaline pushed us forward until we finally found it, the griffin's nest. It was massive. 2 enormous eggs rested at its center, their surfaces faintly pulsing with life. Around them lay a hoard of treasures, jewels glinting in the light, scattered weapons, broken armor, and bones. Lots of bones. Griffin eggs could make us rich beyond reason. But they weren't worth it. Those creatures had an unnatural bond with their young, like a tracker etched into their very souls. No matter where you ran, they would find you. So we left the eggs alone. Instead, I scanned the nest, picking out a few valuable items, things that wouldn't get us killed. And then, I saw it, half buried beneath a skeleton. A book, old, weathered, its leather cover cracked and worn, pages warped from water damage and time. It should have been worthless, but something in me stirred. A pull, a quiet, insistent voice telling me this mattered. I stepped forward and reached down, crack. The sound froze my blood. One of the eggs split open. Oh no, my voice dropped to a whisper. As soon as it hatches, its mother will come back. We need to move now. I snatched the book, and we bolted. Down the mountain, fast as we could manage. We were halfway down when it returned. That crushing pressure slammed into us again, heavier than before. Hi, I hissed. We dove behind a cluster of massive boulders, just as a thunderous impact shook the ground nearby. It found us, or so I thought. But it didn't attack. We stayed perfectly still, barely breathing as the griffin prowled, searching, sensing. Then another sound, a smaller screech, echoed from the mountaintop. The griffin's head snapped upward. Without hesitation, it launched into the air, wings beating violently as it soared back toward its nest. I let out a slow breath. That was too close. We didn't stop moving until we were far down the mountain. That's when I noticed Stephanie. She was smiling, actually smiling. What? I asked. Why do you look so happy? Without a word, she reached into her ring and pulled something out. A clover. Not just any clover, the clover. The final piece she needed for her beast's evolution. That's amazing, I said, grinning despite everything. Now we just need the crystal. She glanced at the book in my hand. What about you? What did you get? I looked down at it. I'm not sure, but something about it felt important. We stopped beneath a cluster of trees to rest. Carefully, I opened the book. The first page read, Shadowblade, Volume 5, Gloom Weaver's Bind. A defensive technique. Catch your opponent's blade with your own, and let the shadows do the rest. As steel meets steel, the shadows crawl, spreading from your weapon onto them. It binds their shadow to the ground, paralyzing their movement. Body trapped, helpless, a perfect opening for a killing blow. The moment I finished reading, my system window flickered into existence. I didn't hesitate. I pressed the button. The book dissolved into particles of light, vanishing from my hands as the knowledge forced its way into my mind. I shut my eyes, wincing. I would never get used to that feeling. When it was over, I opened them again, the technique already etched into my thoughts, alive, ready to be used. I looked at Stephanie. "All right," I said, steadying my breath. "Let's head to the dungeon. Time to find that last evolution material."